Luke chapter 8, verses 22 through 25. One day, Jesus said to his disciples, "Let us go over to the other side of the lake." So they got in the boat and set out. As they sailed, he fell asleep. A squall came down on the lake, so that the boat was being swamped, and they were in great danger. His disciples went and woke him, saying, "Master, Master, we're going to drown." He got up and rebuked the wind and the raging waters. The storm subsided and all was calm. "Where is your faith?" he asked his disciples. In fear and amazement, they asked one another, "Who is this? He even commands the winds and the water, and they obey him." All right, let's get into it. We're going to use our plot art to kind of work through this account, and from that, hopefully, get some good lessons. All right, so we begin with verse 22. One day, Jesus said to his disciples, "Let us go to the other side of the lake." Now, what's interesting here is that Luke doesn't give much context. He just simply says, one day. Now, this happens after the crowds have gathered around Jesus, and he's told the parable of the sower. And you'll remember that the crowds, right, were so many that Jesus' family couldn't get through. No fam, right? That's how many people were there. Now, Luke just says one day, so that means it could be that day, it could be a different day. If you go look at Mark's account, he makes it clear that this happened on the same day. And so just simple context for us is that there were large crowds. So Jesus is actually getting away. He's leaving the crowds. And so and as he leaves the crowds, where are they going? Let us go over to the other side of the lake. So let's go to our plot arc, and it begins here, verse 22. And you know what? Let me do this. I'll start verse 22 up here, but over here, just remember parable of sower and large crowds, because that really is part of the lead into this story. All right, so verse 22, Jesus and disciples go away from crowds to the other side of the lake. All right. And then we get to the second half of verse 22. So they got into the boat and they set out. Now, verse 23, as they sailed, he fell asleep. So it's the first piece of information we got. Verse 23a, Jesus falls asleep. And this is totally understandable, right? Jesus has been doing ministry all day. He's been preaching all day. It makes sense that he's doing this. It's probably that they're sailing through the night. And that's known from Mark's account, but it makes complete sense that Jesus falls asleep as they're going. He is tired from ministry. And I'm sure the disciples are happy to see Jesus sleeping in the boat. Then a squall came down on the lake, and we'll put that in the next part of verse 23, 23b. A sudden storm hits. Now, something to know about the Sea of Galilee is that the Sea of Galilee is, I think, 700 or 800 feet below sea level. So it's one of the deepest lakes on planet Earth. It is, and if you also know, a mountain, if there's a mountain, right, and another mountain, and there's like this lake in the middle, cold air moves down the mountains as the sun goes down. And when that cold air comes down to this lake, if the lake also has hot air, because the lake is warm, and this cold air is cooler than that hot air, the cold air gets underneath and it causes the hot, wet air to rise. And when that happens rapidly, then you get storms, particularly thunderstorms. And so that's where storms actually come from. So What that means is the Sea of Galilee, as one of the uniquely low lakes in the world, is it gets these sudden storms. So these sudden storms are not unusual. The fishermen, like Peter and Andrew, James and John, would have been pretty accustomed to these sudden squalls. But this one's especially bad, so that the boat was being swamped and they were in great danger. So let's get to the plot arc and we'll hit 23C, right? So that's the, just so we're following along. A is him sleeping, B is the storm shows up, and C, the boat is swamped and they are in danger. Boat swamped and everyone is in danger. Okay. The next one is going to be 24. Let's go back to our account. The disciples went and woke him, right? So they're trying to avoid this, but eventually they just got to go wake up Jesus. And they say to him, Master, Master. Now, what's really interesting, and this is just a side note, if you go look at Mark's account and Matthew's account, you will see Lord, Lord. You will see teacher, teacher. And you will see master, master. And you'll see different things like, teacher, don't you care that we're going to die? Or master, we're drowning. Or Lord, save us. And I think that, probably all of the disciples are saying, all of these different things. But what Luke chooses to record is this particular statement, Master, Master, we are going to drown. And this is an important statement here. It is not a plea, not a plea. It is not a complaint either, not a complaint. But it is a declaration. It is a declaration. We are going to drown. So the point to make is they wake Jesus and declare their impending doom. Because the boat is swamped and they're in danger. They're probably miles from shore at this point, and this means that they really are in danger, and that they fully believe at this point they are going to die. They believe they will die. So what does Jesus do? He got up and rebuked the wind and the raging waters. The storm subsided and all was calm. So we get to now here okay, so 24, this is 24A, we're in 24B, okay? So this is 24A, 24B, and Jesus rebukes the wind and waves. And let's go, we'll just divide it further, 24C. The storm obeys. Right? That's a big deal. that the storm obeys. Go ahead, give it a go. Command a storm. See what happens. This demonstrates the authority of Jesus. Not only is he quote unquote master, right, in the sense of humanity, or in the sense of the disciples, but he is master here now, even over the elements, even over nature. So this will go B and we'll go C. And then the key question that comes on the second half of this is verse 25. Jesus' question here. Where is your faith? Where is your faith? He asked the disciples. Now, we have all of those different who, what, where, why, when sorts of questions. And the one that Jesus uses specifically is where. Where is the place your faith resides? And as we already saw up here in verse 24, this is where the faith of the disciples is. They believe beyond a shadow of a doubt they are going to drown. So where is the faith of the disciples? It's in the storm. That's what they believe in most. And that's why they're experiencing all of this fear, right? Fear and faith are linked. What you believe is going to happen is going to directly affect whether you're afraid of you're sorry. So let's say your faith is in danger. I believe that the stock market is going to crash. Okay, well that's going to put quite a bit of fear in you, right? And in the same breath, though, if we have absolute faith in God's provision or going to get us through this, then that leads to peace, right? So you can have faith and you can have peace. You can also have faith and fear in a healthy way here. And that's what we're going to see in this story. Jesus asks, where is your faith? We get this reflective moment, and then that's 25a. So let me go back to 25a. And then we get to 25b. In fear and amazement, they asked one another, who is this? He commands even the winds and the water, and they obey him. So the disciples' fear here, which we saw up in drowning, is now replaced with a new fear, and it's in the person they're in the boat with, right? They realize that the person they've been walking around with for maybe years at this point is bigger, is greater, is more amazing than they even realized before. And it produces both fear and amazement. So you can have a fear of God, right? And it's a fear of God that comes from the fact that he is so strong and he is so powerful. But in the same breath, if you know his character and you know that he is in the boat with you, as it were, that fear of God and the faith in him becomes this thing that actually leads to peace, right? And so I just want us to see here this incredible reality that if we fear the Lord and believe that he is good, then that actually leads to peace. And this is where fear of like the unknown or fear of impending doom is different. It doesn't lead to peace. It leads to despair and many other things, right? Anxiety, despair. But not with the Lord. With God, you can fear him, and if you actually fear him the right way, it leads to peace. And that's a profound lesson that we get in this as the disciples' fear is replaced. 25. So they have a new fear, and that is Jesus. They're amazed that the wind and the waves obey him. And so if we'll just draw I'm going to draw these relationships here in red. So the storm obeys, that leads to the amazement, right? And the new fear, Jesus, replaces their old fear of impending doom. And the lesson that we kind of gain then in this sweet spot up here at the top of the plot arc here is that we should fear Jesus and really the Lord in faith, and this will give us peace. You see, if Jesus is in the boat with us, we don't have to be worried about the boat capsizing. We don't have to be worried about circumstances. We don't have to be worried about danger because we know that God is with us. So one thing we could take away from this is, hey, I don't need God to fix the storm all the time. He's in the boat with me, so I don't have to be afraid. I can just relax, sit in the storm without fear. And if God needs to stop the storm in its tracks in order to preserve our lives, then he will. But I don't need to be afraid, at least afraid of the storms of life. We need to keep the Lord number one in faith, and that brings about peace. So, really beautiful, profound lesson. And let us not forget as well that Jesus commands the wind and the water. They obey him. That is our God. And so let's rest in him.